In the previous episode, we addressed another barren part of the farming area that we turned into a quaint little camping site, where we then also went ahead and added 2 rows of trees, azalea and birch, that we then in turn harvest for leaves and logs that we use throughout this build to make the area look a whole lot nicer. But in this week's episode, I want to find a home for the bees in our manual bee farm located in our flower farm. And what better place to relocate them to than this spot right over here, by the entrance to the farming area that still has nothing built on it. So before we can start in this area, we need to consider everything we need in this area. And I think what I want to do is I want to have a little garden or beehive area over here, almost like the one we did over there. But the idea is that I want to somehow use those beehives as the actual storage for this bee farm or honey farm. And then after this little storage, I think we need to do maybe some form of build in this area. Again, it's not going to be super massive or super effective. It's just going to have a few hives that will allow us to gather the necessary items from the bees. And then I'm thinking we should maybe do something where we can head down to the pond again, almost like what we did over there, but that will bring us down to this area. And I'm thinking this area over here, because if we build up this bank as well, or this edge as well, we'll have a natural little area flowing down into this area. But before that can happen, I think I need to maybe just add a few stone blocks in this area to get it looking a little bit more natural like that. And maybe just dig out a little area or mark out a little area where we're going to do a little build. And then that way we can take it to the next step. So let me do that real quick. Okay, so first of all, I dug a little hole over here, and I think this will be the total size of the building. I don't want it to be too big, because this build, if it's too big, it's going to hinder the view and everything. So I think if we do something small in this area with a nice garden in front, it will be perfect. Then over here, I added a bunch of cliffs and stuff, or rocks and stuff. I wanted to do something like this cliff, but I think this is a more natural transition where we have the strong cliff over here, and then it transitions into a softer shoreline with just rocks scattered all over. And I went ahead and already added this little dock. I do think it's necessary, and I wish you could sit with your feet hanging off, but now we have a little fishing spot as well. So we've got a little camping spot or braai area over there. And then over here, we've got a little dock so we can catch our fish before we go and put it on the braai. But that looks really cool. So I do like what this looks like, but I think the next thing we need to do is maybe start planning a little bit of the create contraption. But before we can do that, I'm just going to off camera just get some power all the way from over there brought over all the way to over here. So first things first, placing the hives. So I marked out this area with the corners still intact to show that I want walls to run over there, there. So what we need to do is we need to have a set of deployers in this area that will be using shears on the hives, and we also need to do pumps. So I think that right about here, running across, will be where we put our hives. So we'll have 5 hives over there, and for now I'm just going to put down 5 empty hives, and we'll bring the bees over. So that's the location of the hives. And then for now, what I'm going to do is in front, we can just add a bunch of dirt, because here we will do grass and other textures later on. But this will be where we have our actual flowers, where the bees will come get the nectar before they head into the hives. So now that we have the hives in, I'm going to place 2 little temporary blocks over there. And on these temporary blocks, we will have our little deployers, and we can remove these temporary blocks. Those will just be responsible for pushing shears into the hives and getting the honeycomb from these hives. The other 3, however, we're just going to add pipes like this. And then right underneath those, we're going to add pumps like so. And these 3 will basically pump honey, the liquid honey out and into a tank that we will place down there. Underneath these 2 deployers, we also need to go and place ourselves 2 smart chutes. And the reason for smart chutes is the fact that we need to tell this that we want to extract only honeycomb. Well, that's the wrong one. That we want to extract only honeycomb from them, otherwise they will take out the shears as well. And then right over here, we can put down a normal chute. And then onto the side of that, we can do that and that. And that over there is how we're going to get the honeycomb out. We can remove that one for now. I'm not sure if we're going to pump directly into it or if we're first going to change it into the honeycomb blocks, because that's something I want to do as well. We're also going to have to feed shears into these deployers. So on the sides of these, on the outsides, I'm going to place 2 hoppers like so. And then onto these hoppers like this, we're just going to place double chests. This might be a bit of overkill, but I don't want to forget about this and then come back to this not working. So I'll rather fill those up with shears. Then we have enough to last us quite a while. The last thing we need to do as it starts to rain is just hook up all of these to power, and basically we're going to put a cog like so. Now that means we only have to power one of these and we'll power all of those, but also at the same time I want to add another cog over here with a little gearbox, vertical gearbox on top of that, and that will power those 2. So we can basically power this entire contraption by just putting power into one of these slots. And I think I might actually go down here. Yeah, there's the power, and we'll power it from this point over here. So now we can get that connected. So I've connected it all up and it's working. We've got the pumps turning and we have the deployers pushing back and forth as well. So with that said, now we can work on what happens below. And what I want to do is we need to take fluid from those pumps and into a tank. And I don't want it to start right underneath the dirt because we might want to do some form of sealing. So right from there, we've got a temporary little block, and then we're going to just add a little tank like this, and we're going to bring it all the way down to here. Again, not all the way to the bottom, because I do think I want to add a floor in here and maybe turn this into some form of basement build. But now that we have the tank, the next thing we need to do is connect up all the pipes. So this one is straightforward. It's just going to come down like this. And in this one, I think we need to do something like this, and maybe add an additional one like so. So we've got that coming over, and then we can just add it like this. And that in theory should take all of the liquid honey we get, pump it into this tank, and from this tank we will pump it into the next phase. So now that we have this whole tank in, we've got it all connected, the next thing we need to do is turn this honey into the 2 forms we can get from it. The first one being honey bottles and the second being honey blocks. And for the one, we're going to just use a spout and we're going to pump honey into glass bottles that we will supply. And the second method will be to take honey, put it in a basin, and using a mechanical press and pressing it into a block. So before we can do that, I think we need to place a floor, and what better floor block than actual beehive. So now that we have some form of floor in here, it's time for the next step. So what I want to do is right over here, I want to add 2 shafts like that, and I'm just going to do 2 more in front of those. And from here we're going to take our belt, and we're just going to run our belt all the way over here. And the idea is basically that we want the one side to have the honey go into a basin, get pressed and turn into honey blocks, and on the other side we want glass bottles to go out, get filled with by a spout, and then head on to the storage as well. So I did make it 1 block shorter, and the reason for that is right over here I want to do a temporary little block, and we're going to add our basin right over there. And this basin will be the one where we pump honey into, and from there it will output the honey block onto this belt that will go to the storage. And then right next to this, I'm going to do another little temporary block. This is where we're going to have a chest or a barrel or something with glass bottles in, and the glass bottles will go out, and I think right about here maybe. Yeah, I think so. I think we can remove one more over here, and then we can just do 3 like that. Let me just get all of this back in again. Yeah, I think this is fine. And right over here, we're going to place our spout like so. So we'll have honey blocks being made and honey bottles in front. And then right over here, we're going to hook it up to this drawer system that will then get linked up to the storage over there. So I think what I need to do is maybe just hook up all the pipes and stuff in this area, and then I'll bring you guys back. So I spent a little time and I got it all connected up. So basically we've got a pump pumping honey directly from the tank into the basin over there. We've got a press on top of that, so as soon as it's filled, the press will push down and the honey blocks will go out and it will go into these drawers. We just need to add the chute still, the funnel still. And on this side, we also have honey pumping out, going into the spout, and the spout will be filling bottles, which I've also added to this area over here. And this is basically it. And now the next part we need to do is add almost exactly the same system on the other side, with the slight difference that this system will only have one of these contraptions, and it will be the basin and the press, so it can press honeycomb into honeycomb blocks, and the normal honeycomb will just head into the storage. So for that, I think I'm just going to bring items down from over here, or I might filter them into a drawer, send the drawer controllers away, and then let that system run right over here. So we're only going to have one track that will be creating the honeycomb blocks, and as soon as the honeycomb block storage is filled, we will start to slowly fill up the honeycomb itself. So I think let me get some basics in place and I'll bring you guys back. So I've spent some time down here and I added the second contraption, and like I mentioned, it will just take honeycomb out. The honeycomb will get pressed into a honeycomb block and we'll just go into the system, and from there we will send everything to a storage system above, and I think it's going to look quite neat. I am for now just going to leave it as it is. It's got a nice little floor, it's got the systems, we've got a little ladder up here that goes all the way to the top to this area, and then that's what we have for the basement as of now. Because I think what I want to do is I want to use some of the honey blocks and the honeycomb blocks to decorate the basement, and before we can get those, we need to get this farm fully functional, which means we need to add bees to it. But before we add bees, I think it's very important that we maybe build the little house, get this area decorated, and just spruce it up all over in general. So sit back, enjoy a super duper build montage. As per usual, we're starting it off in shaders because, I mean, just look at it. Oh, I love this area. I think this is by far my favorite area I've ever built. But let's just run through this. So we added some trees over here. You enter into this secondary little area for bees, as we have one over there, but it's not really that functional. And then I've got all these little hives over here, and this center hive I turned into the storage. So one of those hives happened to have a bee in it, and it's been producing a few tiny bits over here, which is perfect. I did use this drawer because I don't build a lot with honey, so this should be more than enough for this farm over here. And if we go in here, we've got our single bee. He's currently in there. Yeah, there we go. And down here we have the way to get down to this area. So this area is really cool. And if we head on through here, we've got this little pathway running down here, and we can follow this all the way down to this little dock. And if we just hover back this way, we can just take a little look at this, and I have to admit, I love it. I love all these little banks, and I cannot wait for this area to be complete because I've got some ideas for something I want to do in this area as well. But before we can do that, and before this farm is totally ready, we need to just drag a few bees in here. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to place down the beehives that I had in the flower farm over there. I'm going to put them down, I'm going to let the bees go out, and then I'll remove the hive before they can go back into that hive. thus claiming one of these. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll bring you guys right back. And after a whole lot of time, we actually got all these hives filled up, and we have the bees in here, a bunch of them already been busy, and we can even see some honey seeping out of those hives. So that's perfect, and with that going, this will slowly start to fill up, and we will see more and more items flow into the system. Once the honeycomb blocks are full and the honey blocks are full, these two will fill up as well. But for now, I think this is another great success, and I really love how this area came together. What I might do is take the other bees that are still in the hives and just set them free in this area, and hopefully they stick around and add to the immersion of this area. But sadly, we've run out of time for this week's episode, and I need to call it. You see, I still have a lot of editing to do, and it needs to render because it needs to go up in a few. So for now, I'm just going to sit here and fish, and I'm going to ask you guys, remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't done so yet. I mean, a lot of you are watching, but not a lot of you are subscribed. So come on, hit that subscribe button. And then also let me know what you think of the bee farm and the dock. And also, if you can think of any other farms we should add to this area, then list them down below. Remember, these farms are all crop related, so it doesn't mean stuff like kelp or guardians or stuff like that. So let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Bye for now.